everyone. Welcome to Culturally Responsive Instruction. I can't tell you how excited I am to work and learn with you for the next few weeks. My name is Angela Mansfield, and I will be your instructor. And I thought the best way to kind of get to know who I am and my story in this module 1 of storytelling would be to give you a little bit of background. So I'm going to start off right away and jump in with a little introduction to who Angela Mansfield is. I hope you enjoy it. So our first module is all about stories. The story, cultural self-awareness, and consciousness raising for teachers is our title. So I thought, what a better way to introduce myself to all of you, but to kind of share my own story and how I came into being or developing the professional objective that I try to live by. Right away in our book, Culturally Responsive Teaching by Geneva Gay, there is a quote right away at chapter 1, and it says, "You can't teach what and who you don't know." A big part of that, I believe, lies in knowing who you are and what is important to you, and figuring that out as you go out to work with children. So right now you're looking at a picture of baby Angela circa 1972 at some time, or shortly thereafter. Maybe I was 1. But I thought we'd start with her because here's a little girl who had tremendous hope and who carried tremendous hope from her family to go out into the world and impact the world in some way, shape, or form and be the best version of herself. And really, isn't that true for every child that comes into our classrooms or into our schools? That parents are sending them, communities are sending them with hopes for them being impacted by the educators who will reach and touch them so that they can become the best versions of themselves. So I'm going to share a little bit of my story and how I became the educator I am, and hopefully be able to make a small but impactful connection into our modules this week, and as we get to know each other a little bit better through our reading and our sharing. So here we go, Angela Mansfield's cultural primer, to get to know me, that is. So the first picture you're looking at is my family. You'll see my mom and my dad, me down in front of my mom, and my middle brother Aaron, my youngest brother Adam, and when this picture was taken, hadn't been born yet. We were a South Minneapolis interracial family. My dad was a teacher and my mom stayed home and took care of us. Not too much out of the quote-unquote norm when you look at that picture, but one thing that's hidden kind of behind that picture is that it was in the context of a time where we really were kind of a special family. My parents grew up in the Civil Rights era, and they were married in 1971, which was actually only 3 years after Martin Luther King was assassinated, and 4 short years after the landmark Loving versus Virginia Supreme Court decision, which struck down all state laws banning interracial marriage. So when you look at that picture, it just looks like a loving family, which of course we were. However, there's a lot of historical context that comes beyond or behind the 4 of us and my brother, who would come afterwards shortly, that you really don't know, but definitely sets a cultural tone to who we were and experiences that we were going through. Okay, the next 2 pictures are of my grandparents. You have my maternal grandparents on the left and my paternal grandparents on the right. And when I'm writing my cultural story, some important pieces come out in direct connection to my grandparents, to both of them. My grandma and grandpa had some special kind of parenting. There's no secret when you look at that picture that they're white, my mother as well, and they raised 5 children, my mother being the second oldest. And of the 5 children, 3 of those children married outside of their race when they got older. I don't include that because they deserve an award, but I do include that because it sets a tone and helps frame the diverse context in which I grew up in. It was outside of the norm. It was not something that you saw or experienced every day, and had to be directly tied back with the type of parents that my grandma and grandpa were. And then on the other side of that, my granddad and grandmother, they brought their 5 children to Memphis, or to Minnesota, from Memphis, Tennessee, excuse me, during a time that historically now is known as the Great Migration, when many African American families were traveling and bringing their families from the southern states up to the northern states. For opportunities. They believed that by moving north, they could have a better life all the way around. And with that better life for my granddad and grandmother, they had 3 boys and 2 girls, and all 3 of their boys graduated from college, and 2 of them actually ended up becoming teachers, my dad being one of them, and my Uncle Calvin. So very interesting context there when you think about who came before that little girl that's standing in front of her parents. Okay, I'm going to give you just a quick little moment to get your laughs out. Yes, we are rocking the late 80s beautiful formal dresses for homecoming. And yes, each and every one of us in that picture were athletes. So thus the kind of looking like we're taking a team picture. I'm sharing this next picture with you. This is high school years, and the 5 young ladies in that picture, we actually called ourselves the Oreo Posse. And go ahead and laugh at that also right now. We were 5 young women who went to Washburn High School. We were all athletes. We played basketball together. And then soccer is represented there, track is represented there, swimming is represented there, and volleyball is represented there. We called ourselves the Oreo Posse because we were a diverse group of friends. And this was just a bigger reflection of culturally what I knew from my home life example, but it also signified my entire K-12 experience in the Minneapolis public schools through the 80s, late 70s, through the 80s, and into 1990 when I graduated. I was comfortable in the skin I was in. I didn't question my place in or value in the world, to the world, and I was honored for being a great student athlete and an excellent student. I felt really successful and ready to take on the world when I left Washburn and went on to go to college in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Now we're moving from high school into college, and you'll see me there on graduation day with my best friend Tanya. Very proud and very happy to be graduating. But what you don't see behind that smile was that I had a very different experience in college than I had in high school. In college, I started to notice and experience some very intense differences just around expectations of who I was as an African American woman, really directly related to race. Unfortunately, there wasn't an expectation by all my professors that I was or could be the student that I was entering college as. That was a high grade point average, very motivated and engaged student. They really had a low level of expectation of what I could do and who I could be. And the culture of trust that I had developed through my K-12 experience in Minneapolis really disappeared for me in college in relationship to many of the professors that I had. I would say a majority of the professors that I had. And it's actually something or a phenomena that has been cited in research as being critical, that level of trust, that culture of understanding to the achievement of students of color. And I, on face value, I came in middle class family, no big needs, lots of great experiences, and yet still had some struggle because of low expectations that my professors had for me compared to who I saw myself as a student. This last picture in this series is me with 3 of my friends upon completion of our licensure program. Because of my life experiences, it was kind of a natural choice for me to decide to go and pursue my teaching license. I graduated from college with a degree in African Studies and French, came back home, didn't know what I was going to do, and then my dad connected me to a program called the Collaborative Urban Educator Program, and it was a program specifically designed to take second-year professionals and people like myself through a licensure program and put us in 2 classrooms in the urban setting in Minneapolis and St. Paul. I was great with kids, always have been, had grown up the daughter of a teacher and had a tremendous sense of social justice by the time I graduated from college because of my experiences. And I felt like I really was being driven to put those to use. So I entered teaching through the Q program, and you'll see here in that picture of the 4 of us, our eyes are wide open and we're ready to go tackle all of the social justice issues and be the best teachers that we can be for those children that we were about to serve. Now, all of that background into who I am as an educator and really who I am as a person plays a significant role in the person you see in this picture with her very first classroom at Lincoln Community School in North Minneapolis. When you look at this picture, you see an educator with eyes wide open and very bright and excited, but you also see a lot of beautiful, shining faces who with them carry the hopes and dreams and expectations of their background, their families, their experiences. And there isn't really much of a separation between these little eyes, these little children, and the very first picture of little Angela back in circa 1972-73. This picture is really important because the biggest lesson I learned from my experiences right away at Lincoln was the more that I authentically shared of and about myself and explored about myself, the deeper my relationships became between me and my children, and then also with their families, and into the broader community. The foundation of my professional objective and what I aspire to today is from all of my experiences, from who I am, from the cultural experiences and background that I come from. My stories framed me as an educator and prepared me to be able to learn and accept and be aware of the needs of the children that I was to serve. So this picture of me, newbie teacher with my first classroom and my first set of students at Lincoln Community School in North Minneapolis, is a constant reminder of why I do what I do and why equity and cultural competency and just high expectations, a culture of high expectations are so important. Lincoln was a school with many, many, many needs. The kids had high academic needs, there were behavioral needs and issues to address, and the majority of our students were coming in from families in high poverty. I believe at the time it was 97% free reduced lunch. So when I look at this is really why I keep striving to be the best educator I can be and try to make an impact on the schools I serve, the teachers I serve, the families I serve. Okay, so it's exciting for me to share my professional objective with you, especially after sharing a little bit or a lot of who I am as an educator and what has framed that pathway for me. Stories really are important, and in getting to understand and know your own story is what will grow you as a leader and as an educator, and your ability to be able to reach the students and the families and even the colleagues and peers that you work with. I really do believe that leadership sets the tone for student achievement, and we get to go through this next 6 weeks together, all of us being educational leaders, and learn, what role does culture play? What do I need to think about when I'm thinking about my own culture and the culture of the children and families that I work with? And how does my culture inform and sometimes maybe challenge some of the experiences and beliefs that I may have? So at the bottom of my objective, you'll see that personally I hope to influence and guide equity and reform in education. And I hope to do that by being an integral part of making schools into a social equalizer. And I really believe that is possible. The more of us working on that work together, then the more possible it becomes. I'm going to leave you with two quotes that really inspire me. If you think back to my grandpa in that slide with all of my background, my cultural primer, my grandpa, maternal grandpa, was really a quotes guy and always had the best thing to give us in the moment that we needed. And so I hope to share with each module, I hope to share just some good words that you can carry forth into your readings and your work and your discussions. So this week, or this module, successful schools do not happen by accident, and that's Marjorie Lipson, great reading educator, researcher. And they don't, and that's why we have to dig into this work on culturally competent teaching, because when we are intentional, then successful schools do happen. And so I hope that we're going to learn some things together through this first module that will help that. The second quote is from someone who I admire quite a bit, and last year when she came to visit Minnesota, I got to see her at the Excel Center, and one of the things she said in reference to little Michelle, her as a small girl, is regardless of religion, race, or backgrounds, we see ourselves in that little girl, Michelle Robinson. And thinking in terms of that little girl, Michelle Robinson, or that little girl, Angela Mansfield, or that little boy, Cedric Boone, my nephew, or that little boy, Miles Boone, my other nephew, like those are us, we are them. And while we might have really different backgrounds, we all still were those little children with great grand hopes and experiences and ancestry behind us. And so the last bit of that she said, and it goes along with her book, was I am becoming. And just thinking of ourselves in this course, the 6-week small shot of a course that we're going to have together, that hopefully we will all be becoming something that will be even more empowering and beneficial and worthy of the stories that our children bring into our classrooms every day. Thank you for getting through that Angela Mansfield 101. Relationship is very important to me, and that gets a little hard in an online class. So my first hope was that by getting to know a little bit about me, my experiences, who I am as an individual, you'll understand where I'm coming from and the things that I'm sharing and the motivation to my work. And also that it will help you be open and willing to share who you are and kind of tackle some of the things that might come up through this first module and throughout the entire course. So I'm going to leave us with that today, and I really hope that you'll dig into the next video, which is an overview of Module 1 and what we'll be covering in that module. As always, if there's anything you need from me, please don't hesitate to reach out. I have my contact information down there below. I do use WhatsApp quite regularly, so if that's helpful for you, don't hesitate to use that. All right, until the next time, thank you.